Hello Reddit readers! Today we have on the timeline the stories of guys who were refused a marriage proposal. I will not detain you anymore. Like and subscribe to the channel of pleasant viewing. Story 1. From user TheonPolitical. I dated a similar guy when we first started dating. He was all excited about me, as the girlfriend showed me off, and would make claims that I was his future wife almost 2 years into our relationship. And I'm talking to him about what our next steps are in the relationship. And without hesitation, he claims that it would be marriage. He got all excited about it and assured me that I was the love of his life. A month goes by, and he takes me out on a really expensive restaurant. And I mean really expensive by the beach at sunset, live violins playing in the room, showers me with flowers, champagne, and dessert. And I thought for sure he was going to pop the question. Turns out, he was going to break up with me and was going to wait until after sex to tell me the only reason why he told me is that we got back to his place and he wanted to go to bed and have sex. So as I was getting undressed, I admitted that it was a fantastic date and I thought he was going to propose. And we were having such a great time. That's when he confessed his plan. Turns out that after our conversation a month back, he gave it more thought and realized that he wasn't ready to get married. He wanted to treat me to a nice night out and some great sex and then break it off in the morning, because he thought I was a great girlfriend to him. We got along great, had the same values, philosophy, and interests, but he didn't want to marry me. He couldn't understand why I left immediately following at 100 a.m. 35 days later, he married a Thai woman that he met on the internet and paid for her. He brought her over to the US, and she got pregnant really fast. Not even 3 months later, he was already making pregnancy announcements. She lasted 4 years, gave him 2 more kids, got her green card, and moved out. He hunted me down to find me on social media, confessed his life after me, and was crying that his ex-wife took him for everything he had. He was so apologetic and wanted to know if it was too late and said he was kicking himself that he should have stayed with me. He made claims that he got intrigued with the mail-order bride thing and thought it would be so cool. She was 19, he was 38, and she made a lot of promises and she didn't keep one of them. She resisted everything she promised him and the relationship, and they had constant fights. He realized that she only used him for citizenship and money. Shocking, I, of course, was in a committed relationship, but I have no idea why he would think after 5 years I would be ready and waiting for him to come back to me. Sort of felt insulted that he thought that of me. I think once he saw my life online and found out more in the shared messages that I became exactly who I wanted to become, and his life would have been more enhanced and more simple if we would have stayed together. Even if we would have divorced, we would have left with exactly what we had and earned. We were both equally financially the same, with a few areas of exception. His house was worth more than mine at the time, and I believe he had a bigger 401k portfolio than I did. That differed of about 6K. So real close, he no longer has the house or his retirement, as he had to split that in half with her too. Story 2, from user encrypted. I was with my girlfriend for 6 years in our early 20s. I'd say, for the vast majority of that, we were both pretty mentally ill, and it was generally a cycle of constant mutual verbal abuse. It was easy to stay together, and we were clinically depressed. We did fundamentally connect, though there was a reason we stayed together that long. I moved back in with my folks a few years into the relationship to just tread water at a dead-end part-time minimum wage job for a few years. Somewhere in there, I just quit my job, and my parents and I never talked about it. There was no pressure from their end. We all knew I was sick. Even if we couldn't put a name to it, I was lucky to have the support from my folks. She lived with her parents the entire time and rarely took me there. A relief at the time, honestly, but it made me feel like a loser boyfriend. I was at year 6. She moved to another city about 45 minutes away to take a promotion, taking me by complete surprise when she said she hadn't thought about our relationship at all in making the decision. She was clearly trying to get her own life going and felt the same drag, and our long-term priorities were becoming starkly different. She encouraged me to see a therapist, because I was having panic attacks on top of the long-term depression and intrusive suicidal ideations. I was realizing my life was passing me by and didn't have a way out. I saw a counselor and switched my primary care doctor. The original had refused to prescribe antidepressants at her encouragement, and for the first time in my teen and adult life, I wasn't depressed. It was literally like walking into the sunlight. For the first time, the benefits were amazing. I got motivated, started eating better, exercising, and planning how I was going to finish college. I started realizing what my real skills and ambitions were and threw my entire self into it. 10 years removed, that was really when my life truly got started, and I felt that I was really living to my potential. For the first time while that was happening, my long-term girlfriend was still slow motion breaking up with me. Right when I was finally getting my shit together, it was a helpless feeling, and I had separation anxiety. We did longish distance for a few months. We tried to make it work, but it was still clear that she was doing her own thing, and I was secondary to all of it. It was then that in what I feel was a last-ditch attempt to bring us closer together, I planned to propose. I involved our mutual friends. Everyone knew when I planned to pop the question. Everyone was super encouraging, despite everything I asked her while we were out on a very planned date. I dropped every cent of what little money I had on it, and the ring. It was a great night until I asked her. Her response was an incredulous stare. "And you don't know me at all?" I drove her home in the most suffocating silence you could imagine, and then laid in bed for 2 straight days. I don't remember what happened to the ring. We made an attempt to work through it for a few weeks, but I had gotten the closure I was looking for, and I split. We were amicable about it, but it was no contact from there. I think we both had taken too many swipes to ever be friends again. It was humiliating, but also deeply necessary. I left the friend group behind thinking I was giving her a gift of a support circle, but it was largely motivated by what I felt was my public humiliation. Unfair to them. Everyone was kind about it while it was happening. I met new people in school, made new long-term friendships, saw the world and lived am thankful. My ex said no. It was the catalyst that led me where I am today. I'm very happy and fortunate. I finished my degree, met my soulmate after college. We have both been successful in our careers, and together, we've built a loving family. I am thankful for my ex, even if the entire thing was a prison of our own making. Story 3 from user Maple Fractal. Oh, hold my beer, fellas. It's my turn, lol. TLDR, 3rd time's the charm boys, just celebrated 10 years together. You know when you've met your soulmate, and I thought that was some bullshit my whole life until I meet my wife. Okay, I met my wife in Azeroth. Yep, World of Warcraft. And this is a 15-year story. We became best friends online. We were always doing things together in that time. I had a few girlfriends. One pretty nuts. One and another that liked to play games. I was over it and said single life for a bit was a good idea, and so we just kept hanging out and playing. Wow. I knew I was catching the feels, eventually didn't know. She had started too as well. Anyways, lots of talking about everything, listening to music, running raids, fun. And I asked her out one night, and now we're dating long distance fast forward a couple of years later, and I asked her to marry me one night after we'd been drinking. She thought I was kidding, and obviously said no to that. That was one and told me as much. So I just kinda dropped it and figured it was a stupid time idea, but now a seed was in my head. I wanted to marry this woman I'd uproot my whole life to be with her. And that wasn't scary, so time goes on, my feeling. Don't change, they get stronger, some ups and downs in the relationship. Now I was a dick sometimes, and she was being distant. Emotions are hard, and long-distance emotions are really hard, but things get better. A lot better. So one night, I make sure we're both sober and just watching a movie over Skype. I knew now was the right time. This was it. I ask her to talk seriously for a second. She seems nervous, but says, "Okay." I tell her again, everything I've said and that I want to marry her. She says, "No." Again. I am devastated. Shattered, I tell her. I need to think, we break up. This one really hurts more than anything I ever knew you could feel 1 month later. I am just trying to move on. No talking, no texting, no wow. Back to real life. And it sucks. One night, I get a text from her asking to talk. I want to ignore it. Why torture myself? Long distance was never gonna work. Anyways, I said, okay, what the, am I doing? My phone rings before I can put it down. She's already crying, saying she made a mistake and she knows she's supposed to be with me too. And she had been basically laying in bed trying to convince herself she wasn't head over heels. For a bad boy, she wants to be together and doesn't care about the distance at all. She just wanted me in her life again. We're back together now, okay? 6 months later, she lost her dad and moved home to be around. Apparently, I was the only one who gave her the space she needed and tried to only check on her till she was ready to talk. We move on together. She's happier again. Eventually, now it's Christmas, I bought a ring. I asked her to marry me one final time, and she said yes. Before I had finished to sentence third time is a charm. I moved to a different country. We eloped to Vegas. We've got an 8-year-old and just celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary. So when you see old folk that say they're soulmates and have been married forever, believe it's real. I found one, and I thought it was all nonsense. Story 4 from user Thardo4W44NiwiOLIF3. I asked. She laughed, to be fair. I didn't have a ring and it wasn't thought out. I just realized I wanted to marry her. I didn't have a ring prepared. It was stupid. I also used to say to myself as well, you need to live someone for a year to be sure. And this was the first time I'd lived with a partner and not yet a year. A few months later, she said she wasn't happy. She wanted me to get a better job. I wanted to push the current one as far as I could get management. She said she'd give me a year. She didn't. I said I wasn't happy. Either we went to sleep a few days later, she said she wanted to talk. I was at work, didn't want to wait. And she said she wanted to split up to concentrate on work. I wasn't stupid. I wanted to move out and slept on the sofa. A couple of weeks later, I'm ashamed to say I tried it on and she told me she was seeing someone. I backed off completely and finalized my plans to move out. She wasn't keen, but I said, you can have the new guy move in. She said something about it making her financially beholden to him, or something like her last boyfriend. Quite frankly, I didn't care. It's not for me to protect her independence from her new boyfriend and sleep on a sofa or a tiny spare room full of her shoes and clothes anyway. I held firm and moved out, so much stress hurt but relief that I had my own affordable place. She wanted to be friends, but I seemed the normal one on calls. She didn't know what to say. No idea why she wanted to call me. Then one weekend, she called me up and talked about memories. So I said, you can make memories with your new guy, or you can move it. Is probably why I am finding it easier. She did sound like she wanted me back. But one thing she had said to me when we first got together made it clear to me it would never work out. After that, I accidentally washed my phone, so got another and the number changed. She nearly landed me with the bill for the sofa. Buy now, pay later, which she agreed to pay. She did land me with the gas bill, which they said the gas company couldn't locate her. So I paid it all. Turns out they had just amended her account to be in both names. So literally, the same address. Then also, since I'd bought her a phone, she agreed to pay that to keep the number. So at one point, decided to stop paying that at the tune of $400 approx. Then even though I'd asked her to take my name off the account, she'd added her partner's name to a joint account at HSBC. So I couldn't open an account there. I only found out some years later they'd also taken a mortgage out. And for some reason, I was tied to these products. She had terrible credit history. Mine was really good. Anyway, apparently, although the bank had agreed to take my name off the account, I think she left it on initially because she had a loan on it still and didn't want to pay it back. Then, the mortgage HSBC refused to do anything except multiple times. Try to tell me about my account, so I contacted the ombudsman. Since I'd complained and made a complaint, I cited a few things like mortgages and loans and credit history, with nothing signed by me. If anything else, my name attributed to things I never agreed to is incorrect. Credit history, blah blah. I got a confirmation, and then in a few days I got a call from HSBC saying I was removed from the account and credit history cleared. They asked if I needed anything else, and I just asked for proof, or at the very least a letter confirming that the above had been done. The thing she said to me when we got together. And with my rose-tinted glasses, I never really understood or thought about what it meant. I've never been single. She left me. And within 2 weeks was with someone else. Now, yeah. The cynical people will doubt. She wasn't seeing someone else and saying to him she would break up with me that started that night in bed. But it doesn't matter so much if someone wants to go. You don't make it difficult as a parting gift, though. Before I moved out, I left her a letter about the grass is always greener. How are things? Now she has a daughter and married the guy, so all worked out? Well, I think maybe the letter worked. Hell, never know her decision faltered and I'd never say anything. I'm not in touch. Not out of dislike. I felt I could speak normally to her, but for her, she just seemed awkward. I have a partner closer in age, and we are good friends and love one another. We've both been single. We both laughed about splitting up to concentrate on work. She didn't laugh when I proposed, either, though I had to ask her again when I had the ring. Not that I am bitter about it with my partner. If she laughed, I'd laugh too. It's just very different. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and write comments. See you later.